welcome to Designing Our Destiny series. We are very happy to have you here in this series, talking to the youth of Tamil Nadu, the people of Tamil Nadu, and sharing your story of success with us, which will inspire millions of youth here. So Chennai to Silicon Valley, an accidental technologist, quoting you from your own interview. How do you sum up this journey? 40 years, right? Starting from 82. What is this magic of Silicon Valley where you landed?
Vanakkam, Neeraj, thanks for having me here. Again, a lot of things can be destiny, right? I had a comfortable job in Houston, Texas, when a consultant told me, based on my credentials, I had to move to this place called Silicon Valley, right? And that's what started my journey. I wasn't a developer or a programmer or coder, but somehow with my background, he suggested I go there. And this was in the 80s. And in the 80s, as you know, there was no internet, there was no LinkedIn, no way to find Silicon Valley or these companies. And all we heard was there was a magical place. There were lots of crazy people there who wanted to change the world. But how you got there was a different story. So I had to use old-fashioned methods like going to a library, trying to find a machine called a microfiche that had the old newspapers from San Francisco, to go through the classified section to find the ads for the jobs. And that's what I had to do. And then write a biodata by typewriter and then mail it. And then one of these companies was crazy enough to fly me to California from Texas and hire me. So that was my start in Silicon Valley. So I owe this to a consultant who was sort of my mentor, I guess, and owe it to luck and destiny.
Taking on from the word mentor, that's something very, very important these days, right? And starting a new venture, you want to make mistakes, but you don't want to make mistakes which others have made, right? So what do you think is the role of mentor and a mentee, and how important it is for the youth of today to be able to, even if they're not a technologist or a budding entrepreneur, what is their role?
And again, getting a mentor, I had an accidental mentor. So there was a gentleman in my first company in Silicon Valley that I mentioned, became a mentor by default. And he helped me navigate through the company. He supported me in my promotions. He went to his next company and had me hired there. So basically, he became a default mentor. I didn't even know it, right? So I don't want young people in Tamil Nadu to make that mistake today. So as a student or a young entrepreneur, one of your first things you need to write down is find a mentor. And what I mean by that is not one of your relatives, not your college professor, but find someone who can guide you through life, right? By asking you the hard questions, challenging you, making you do more than you can, and really also being your biggest supporter. So it is not easy to do, but you can read up on it, maybe look for the type of person you'd like to have a mentor. But I tell every young person this: start your life with a mentor or a couple of mentors. And I do the same now. Even now, I have a rolling group of mentees. I think I have 5 or 6 at this point who call me every 3 months, or we meet. Before COVID, we used to meet. Now we just do Zoom calls. But definitely, this is something I do in terms of giving back as well.
You started out as an angel investor much earlier in the startup ecosystem. Possibly at that time, the word VC was not there, right? So how have you seen the change? What has been the experience like? You've seen the entire horizon. What do you see the new disruptions, new ideas making your daily lives? COVID has been a game changer. What has how do you feel? How do you see this world evolving?
Yeah, I would say this is the best time to be an angel investor. I started 25 years ago when there was no category called angel investing, right? And I kind of quit corporate life to kind of lead my own independent life and became an angel investor. But now fast forward with COVID, as an entrepreneur, there are limitless possibilities, right? This whole COVID situation, although has been terrible for everyone in terms of losing people and getting sick and all these things, from an entrepreneurship, this is probably the best time in the world. COVID has disrupted normal corporate life. Everybody's working from home. So people who work from home need new solutions, right? They need to have new types of software, new capabilities. Or if you're in healthcare, you need telemedicine and all kinds of other support functions. If you are a retailer or you're a manufacturer, you need e-commerce and logistics. If you're any company, you need digitization, right? To show that your whole company is online. And so this whole COVID time has been the opportunity to create myriads of companies. And as you can see, companies have been created, companies have been funded, companies have exited. These are the best times as an entrepreneur.
Wonderful, thanks. We also see, coming to the non-business side of the what you call the philanthropic part of we see a lot of people putting in their money in philanthropy. What is this role of private equity in philanthropy space?
Yeah, this is a great question, Neeraj, because what I tell every entrepreneur, and I meet with at least 2 a week. Now it's on Zoom. In the old days, it was breakfast or lunch. But over 25 years, I think I've lost count, 2,000 to 3,000 entrepreneurs, right? And one of the things I tell them is, what are you doing for philanthropy? And I always point out to Mark Benioff at Salesforce, one of the most successful CEOs and entrepreneurs, who set up the 1 + 1 + 1 formula, right? The 1% solution, as I call it, which is when you set up your company as an entrepreneur, set aside 1% of your company's stock to go into a foundation. You set aside 1% of the profits to go to NGOs, and you set aside, most importantly, 1% of your employees' time to be given as service to an NGO. And that's what every entrepreneur needs to do. And it's easiest to do it day one, because I met a billionaire whose biggest regret was he didn't become a philanthropist early in his life. He said, I had to make my billions and then be a philanthropist. I would very much have loved to be this 40 years ago when I didn't have any money, because that gratification you get by giving back, there's no compensation for that.
Yes, wonderful. You have been a founder of the Indiaspora Forum, right? I mean, what inspired you to set this up, and how has it transformed over all these years? What are some of the key activities of Indiaspora going forward, and how can you see it making a change?
Yeah, so the Indian community here is pretty vibrant. As you know, in the United States, there are about 4 million of us. There are 18 million diaspora worldwide. So this probably about 20% of the diaspora lives in the US, okay? And it's the most successful diaspora. And people love to say all the good things about our diaspora. We are the most successful entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers. We are the highest earning ethnic community in the United States, right? $110,000 a year. And the average American family only makes $55,000 a year, right? So we say all these things, but then we look around and we don't have any political influence. We don't, have a vehicle to give back, and so on and so forth. And so as an entrepreneur, one of the things I did was to go talk to the community leaders to see if we needed a new organization, right? Because there are many, many existing organizations. They're great organizations like TAI for entrepreneurship, or there are organizations called Tamil Sangam or FETNA for the Tamilians to congregate every year and so forth. But is there an organization that gets everybody involved? Doctors, lawyers, academics, authors, and the like. And that's what Indiaspora is all about. It brings everybody together, right? And it's for 3 causes. When I got 100 people together, they said that 3 things the community needs to work on. One is political engagement. We had nobody representing us in Congress. Now, for example, the Tamilians will be proud. We have Raja Krishnamurthy, a Tamilian who's actually a congressman from Chicago, right? That couldn't have happened unless we supported him. So political engagement is important. Now we have Kamala Harris, whose mother Shamala Gopalan came from Chennai, right? So we have all these connections now in the political side. Then on the community side, we are also people of color, right? So when Black Lives Matter happened, it was our duty to support Black people in this country. So we took a strong stand against racism. We also were the organization behind getting a Diwali postage stamp. There was no stamp for Diwali in the US. Although I know people from Tamil Nadu will take exception and say it's Deepavali, but we didn't want to argue. We wanted to get a stamp quickly, right? And then the final thing is philanthropy. We all need to be philanthropists, like I mentioned earlier. So we need to give back, whether it's time. A lot of Indians give time as well, which is important, and money. I think a combination of the two is very important. And that's what Indiaspora's role is, is to double the giving of the Indian diaspora in the next 5 years. So it's 15% a year increase, and we'll get there in 5 years. So we're doing a lot of things around philanthropy. And so this is the objective in diaspora, is to make our community strong, to project the identity of our community as givers and not takers.